Hello, everyone. It's 3 p.m. on Friday. Thank y'all for taking the time to join me for Applied AI in College Classrooms. I'm just getting everything set up here. Um, why don't we, in the chat, uh, write how y'all doing today? It's Friday, it's Halloween, if that's something that you celebrate. October 31st. We are going to be looking at Module 2 today. We originally had this scheduled for a couple of weeks ago, but due to I was out of town at a conference and we weren't able to make it back in time for our meeting. So we had to cancel that. So I apologize for anybody who tried to join but wasn't able to. I thought I made an announcement, or I thought I canceled the invite, but I guess there's like phantom invites out there for this one. So, but we're here now. And so I want to go ahead and get started. No, David, you're doing fine. Candy Pirate Day, yeah. Chance here to overload on sweets. But before that happens, we should talk about something even more scary, which is data privacy being fed to AI. That's scary. I say it half jokingly, but it is actually a big problem that we're going to address when we get to, well, we get into the listen stage here. Let me give you all a quick little introduction to our goal. I'm just going to read the session goal, and I'll keep the success outcomes up here for you to read on your own, because sometimes it says a lot of the same stuff. So our main goal here is to develop critical awareness of ethical considerations in AI use, learn to identify and mitigate bias in AI outputs, and understand data privacy implications for educational settings, build foundational skills for creating inclusive AI policies that protect student privacy while promoting equitable learning opportunities. So we'll talk a little bit about policy today, but mainly next week is where we really go into and look at the policy that you'll have for your course. And then we'll also talk about how you can tag your individual assignments for AI use. And then those are the outcomes there for today. You'll need access to an AI chatbot like ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude, anything you feel comfortable using the large language model. A course syllabus, you might use that one later on in the apply stage. We won't need that for what we're doing in the explore. Your weekly reflection journal, I saw people have been updating that, and that's great. I hope y'all can add those to the network assignments to get credit for what you're doing in here. And then, oh, actually, no, it's not an assignment. It's a discussion board. So pasting it onto the discussion board. And if you get a chance to get onto LinkedIn, connect with me. I'll make sure to interact and connect with you on that platform as well. So yeah, let's move on to our listen stage here. I have a presentation that I had Gamma whip up for me real quick. And so, yeah, we're talking about ethical foundations, bias, and data privacy in AI. These tools are great for doing certain things, but there's still some problems with it being a new technology. And so this little graphic here highlights some of them. We're going to be covering the data bias and the data privacy today, but there's some big issues with copyrights and intellectual property, especially when you get into some of the image generation. Plagiarism, just straight taking text from already established sources. Transparency, like, we don't know what's going on really behind the scenes in the algorithm. For the company that's called OpenAI, they're not really that open with what's going on behind the scenes, and that could be a problem. And then fairness and inclusivity is another thing. There's another one that's not talked about here in this little graphic is, or it's not, there's no section for it, is some of the environmental problems that AI is causing. But as my colleague Jeff Kane said, it's a little bit more, that's more of like a, not having a good energy problem, or not having a good energy solution for tech and servers in general. And so AI is kind of getting looped, pulled into that as being an issue. So yeah, that's kind of the overall focus here for this learn section. This week in AI, maybe in the chat we can get the chat active here. If y'all can put anything that you found out about AI that you think is particularly interesting, or like a new tool that you might have found. Jeff was talking about napkin AI, and that's something I haven't really toyed around with a lot, but I got in there and I was trying to make an infographic. ChatGPT getting purchased by Microsoft. I'm just going to put that one there in here and say it was not. I don't know about that. Jeff just put napkin AI into the chat. This thing is pretty cool. You can put your notes or text in here, and then it will create visuals for you, and you can have a couple different options. Rachel says Meta has had big layoffs of their AI data science team. The AI is going to replace the people working on them. It's interesting. I always get some good updates here from the AI plus education weekly update. Actually, it's AI for education. That's what, I don't know why the plus is here. Pluses. I always think of pluses and, but coincidentally, their first article that they look at and highlight is some Stanford research about AI companies collecting user data. And this one's pretty good. I'll put this into the chat. This came out on the 15th. So it's a couple weeks old. 4 weeks maybe. And it talks about the privacy policies of the different AI companies. But there was one part here where they've got this table here, and try to zoom it in so that you can see the table more clearly. These are all the big companies, with the popular large language models. And you can see the data privacy practice, chat input used for training data by default. All of them except for Amazon, and Amazon didn't specify, so we don't know if they're doing it or not. There is a mechanism to opt out of chat training. So at least it's turned on by default, but you can turn it off. But it's like the way that they word it. I'll try to bring it up here real quick. So you can go in here and see let's see, personalization. It's like data controls. They call it improving the model for everyone. So that kind of wording. Oh, I want to improve the model for everyone, but that just basically means that whatever you type is going to be allowed to train the models. And so we'll talk about that and what all of that is today. But um, I just thought that was a funny way that they put that. Chat data retained indefinitely. All of them, well, I guess half of them. Let's see. Anthropic, which is cloud, Google's Notebook, or Google's Gemini, and Microsoft do not keep, but OpenAI, that's ChatGPT, is going to keep the chat data indefinitely. This is about personalization, and then allows accounts for children's 13 to 18. OpenAI, yes. And so you can kind of see the problem here is if you've got a teenager that's using chat but doesn't know much about it, anything that it types in goes into the training. I'll just read this scenario, a realistic scenario, just so that you can see the visual of like the visual implications of that. Imagine asking an LLM for dinner ideas. Okay, seems harmless. Maybe you specify that you want low sugar or heart-friendly recipes. The chatbot can draw inferences from that input, and the algorithm may decide you fit a classification as a health vulnerable individual. This determination drips its way through the developer's ecosystem. You start seeing ads for medication, and it's easy to see how this information could end up in the hands of an insurance company. So one main thing we're going to be talking about is being careful when using these tools, being careful what you put in there. So let's talk about this real quick. The way that I had this structured is bias first and then data privacy. So we're going to do a little data privacy to bias and then back to data privacy. But I think it's important, especially talk about the training data, because we kind of talked about briefly, high level, how it works on our first session, but what does that mean, right? Like, so we'll talk about AI bias in 4 different ways. So the first one here is training data bias. AI learns from human created content that reflects societal biases. The AI learns patterns from us as humans, as internet people who use the internet, and we have our own bias as humans. It's just the way that it works. We think about things in certain ways, and it tries to take the average, I would say, the average of everything, and so it can kind of be skewed certain ways depending on what the average is. And so there's algorithmic bias, which is also algorithmic discrimination, how AI can perpetuate and amplify unfair treatment. This is the algorithm, so where training data is like the data that comes in. I look at the algorithm as kind of the way that it processes those that data. And there's an article by the Frontiers in Education that's at the bottom of this listen page that talks about how grading algorithms have lower scores for multilingual students because it's trained on mostly native English writing, or mostly trained on native English writing. Um, and so that's the discrimination in the algorithm. There's representation gaps. It's missing voices and perspectives in the data. So if most of the sources come from Western countries, then it's going to be a more Western-centric worldview when you interact with the AI. And then there's cultural assumptions. AI response often reflect dominant cultural viewpoints. Um, if you ask for a list of philosophers, you'll probably get like Plato, Aristotle, Kant, Kant. Before you see like people from Asia or Africa or Latin America. So that's it's pulling off of what it sees the most, right? It's got the average. So it's like if you're talking about philosophy, these are the people that based on this training data that come up the most. That's right. So Kelly in the chat saying it's a negative of the open source, and then this specifically about bias, unbalanced and incomplete data. So I want to hear from y'all real quick. So has anybody ran into bias that they were like, oh, that I feel like this shouldn't be like that. I feel like the AI shouldn't be giving me this kind of response. Feel free to put it in the chat or hop off mute if you want to share.
Hey Ronald, it's Jason.
Hey,
So part of like the College 102 class that I teach that talks about information literacy, I use a section that I teach where we insert prompts into a chat and it's just a full color headshot of, and I use everything from a fast food worker to an inmate to individuals that commit acts of terrorism. And then I fact check it with, like, for example, a full color headshot of an inmate in the United States Bureau of Prisons. And they generate about 300 images, and um, overwhelmingly, it's people of color. And so then I fact check it against the Bureau of Prison Statistics, where the last time I did it was about, it was during summer term, not fall term. And the Bureau of Prisons listed that over 67% of inmates in the United States are white or identify as white. So that gets a little
wow.
tricky when you're using AI and image generation.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was a thing over I think it was maybe last year. I was gonna say over the summer, but I think it's been a while already, but where AI it was Google Gemini was trying to put some guardrails in place to make sure that their images were more diverse. Um, but it it didn't put the guardrails on like uh, I don't know. The image that comes to mind when I think about it, it was like a African American Nazi uh, came up multiple times, and it was I think it was pretty embarrassing for Google, and I think they shut it down within like a day or two. Um, but yeah, that's a problem when you have an image generation that it's being trained on these, it's being trained a certain way, but it misses the nuance of being human and realizing that some of this stuff is not the way that it really is in life. So, Kelly, Jason, did you want one more thing to say?
Yeah, if that's okay. I don't mean to like hog the mic, but
No worry.
So the follow-up I did on it is that there was a county, and I forget the name of the county, but it was in Alabama where they wanted to um access community policing records. So they essentially wanted to open up decades of community policing information and have them predict what they were calling hotspots at the time for community policing efforts in Alabama. In this particular county. It's whatever county Birmingham is in. I forget what it is. But that opens up, I mean, AI being like a natural language model, it's going to open up like decades of bias against
Yeah.
individuals in community policing and how our justice system has always kind of been, well, I haven't studied it extensively, but I think we can assume that it's been slanted in a particular way. So if you take that natural language model and feed that into AI and you keep giving it those data points of those police reports and how that community policing works out, it's going to continue to generate that the way the algorithm looks at it.
Mm, yeah. Perpetuate the problem. Yeah. That's crazy. Kelly, did you have an example that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I was doing a side project and I was researching early video game console pioneers, developers, and I noticed that it left a gentleman off who's African American. His name is Jerry Lawson, and he was one of the first pioneers who developed the Fairchild F home video game console with cartridges. It completely left him out of it,
Dang.
and I was pretty shocked. And it
Can't forget
was,
about Jerry.
yeah, yeah, he's awesome, awesome. His
Yeah,
innovations.
and I wonder what's the reason? Because maybe a lot of people don't know that name, or uh, it was just kind
I
of
think,
minimizing the
uh,
contribution.
I think so. A lot of people really don't know who he is, but when they research him, they find out, real quick, this guy was a pioneer, absolute pioneer in microprocessor controlled interchangeable cartridge game or game cartridge video
Yeah,
games.
kind of how the Nintendo system took off.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, his company developed games for the Atari 2600 when that got
Oh,
released.
yeah, yeah,
So cool stuff.
kind of a big deal. Jeff, I see your hand up. Jeff Kane.
Oh yeah. Yeah, some you were talking about the Black Nazi issue.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is when you um I think I think it was us. We either did it or we saw somebody do it where it was 18th century American senators and they included Black and Asian senators in the 18th century, which is funny,
Amazing.
you know. And
Very
also
fun.
there's also it I I can't unpack where this bias comes in, but in one of them I asked based on my prompt was based on your experience and of interactions with me, um create an image of what you think I might look like. And a couple of the AIs do some really funny things. One of them, I'm so Irish, apparently. I look like a white supremacist, because there's like certain tattoos that like this Celtic cross and a couple of other things
Yeah, yeah,
combined
yeah.
together are prison tattoos, and I got
Oh,
one of those. One of the things, but also one of them pegged me for a woman, you know.
oh,
So it was me in a library drinking coffee, which is accurate except for the sex thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost
But
there.
then and then we've also done things where I've said, oh, I need a bunch of scientists, give me 12 scientists and an astronaut. And in a year and something ago, it would give me it'd give me 12 guys with white beards, and then it would just, and then just somebody standing in the middle of the room wearing a full-on
Astronaut
EV
outfit.
astronaut outfit. Yeah.
I remember that one.
Yes.
You showed me that one.
Yeah.
You know, I'm wondering, after listening to all this, I wonder if you were to upload and present yourself to the AI as an African American or as an Asian or whatever, if it would then see that and give you different responses depending on what it sees you as, because
That's
you've already,
interesting.
so just to wonder.
Yeah, that sounds like like a research paper in the making, where one person goes in and makes 10 different accounts with 10 different backgrounds, and or maybe you don't even add the background, just like you said, here's a headshot of me. My name is da 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 da. You could just do the same name too across and see if there's any sort of differences in the response. We're going to keep it moving on here. I have some examples just that chat came up with, and so the impact.
I'm sorry, Ronald. I don't mean to interrupt, but while we were talking, I went ahead and asked it to give me the 18th century senators, and we still have an African American senator.
Yeah.
That was just now. So
Holding it down.
yeah.
All right. So, okay. So speaking of historical things, history AI, or interacting about history with AI might overrepresent certain perspectives while minimizing others. In literature, it might keep pushing Western male authors. In science, it might center on European discoveries and skip global contributions. And then on career guidance, it might quietly reinforce gender or cultural stereotypes. There's an AAiCC article that's linked at the bottom of the listen page. It's called "Ethics is the Edge," and it's saying that AI now shapes how we access knowledge. If we're not aware of the bias, then we risk passing it along to our students. So it's work that also we have to do, and that kind of knowledge, once again, kind of separates you from the machine. It keeps you as the human in the loop. So, okay, let's move on to data privacy. It's another big issue with AI. Most teachers don't realize how much personal data AI tools collect. Every time a student uploads work to an AI platform, or we paste student writing into ChatGPT, we might be sharing information that we're not supposed to. So there's 4 things that we can keep in mind. First is the student data protection, what information AI tools collect and store. These tools collect more than just what you type. They log timestamps, IP addresses, how long someone spends on a task, even what you delete before you hit submit. I heard about that. Over time, that builds a pretty detailed profile about you. Also, they have memory now, which I use, to be transparent, because I kind of want it to know about me so that I don't have to explain it every time. But at the same time, I'm using a version of ChatGPT that information doesn't get trained on. Like y'all saw at the beginning, I turned off that option. And on a team account, you can make it so that, like, I guess, another layer of not using the data to train. FERPA compliance, how AI use intersects with educational and privacy laws. In the US, FERPA protects student records but that law was written in the 70s. And so this is before chatbots grading essays was even a thing. When we paste the work into a public AI tool, that technically counts as sharing an educational record. And under FERPA, that's a disclosure. I know a lot of us are trying to use it to save time for writing feedback, but that is one thing that we should consider is the FERPA aspects. Institutional policies, most colleges are still catching up and trying to get a policy embedded in. EdTech Magazine found that many institutions are forming AI committees with IT, legal, and faculty voices to figure out what tools are allowed and how to handle that data safely. We have our AI task force at Clover Park, and I know a lot of people in this room are on there. And we've got people from IT on there as well. And then the last one here, international considerations. A lot of AI tools store data across borders. Maybe they have a server in Ireland or Singapore or Canada, and each country has different laws. So once student data crosses that line, the US protections don't necessarily apply. And then one more thing that didn't make it into the slides here is we're seeing a lot of cyber attacks on schools in general. I'm sure there's some people in here that can speak more to that, but security breaches in education are climbing fast. And some districts are paying millions in ransom just to get their systems back. There was a thing where it was like LA Unified School District. They had an AI assistant called Ed. And then the company like shut down, and then the parents didn't know where the student data went. So they got all this student data, and then nobody knows what happened to it. And so it's hard to know where the data goes. So just make sure you're careful about what you put in there. Okay. And a couple more things here on the privacy concerns. So this is like in the classroom. These are some situations that you might run into. So student work uploaded to AI platforms. You might think, hey, I'll put this essay into ChatGPT to help me write the feedback faster. But the reality is you're sharing the student's educational record with the company. And then, especially if you're using like the free version, because you don't want to, I guess you would want to sign up if you're going to be using it for feedback. But let's say somebody's just testing it out. Even if you're, trying to get the help and trying to save some time, that could be a FERPA violation. Personal information shared in prompts. Even if you're not putting in like full assignments, the prompts you write can give away protected information. So for example, let's say you say, help me create an accommodation for a student with ADHD who's struggling in my class. You just disclose the disability statement. Or write a recommendation letter for this person applying for nursing school. They got a B+ and they volunteer in the clinic. You've just shared the grades, the career plans, and hopefully you wouldn't put the name of the person there. But if you did, then you would also be disclosing the name. Even in saying like, I have 3 students with dyslexia in my class of 15 could identify those specific students. Data retention and usage policies. Different tools have different rules. And so some education-focused versions say they don't train on student data. Consumer versions often do. Some keep the data for 30 days, some for a year, as we can look at this thing here. The chat data is retained indefinitely on ChatGPT, on Meta, and on Amazon. So, and then we talked about the cross-border data already, and so we'll just keep moving on past that. Okay, so here's what we want to focus on is the responsible AI implementation. Okay, so what does that look like? First of all is transparency, being upfront with students about how AI is being used in your class, both by you and how you expect them to use it. If you used it to write part of your syllabus or draft rubrics, you can say that. We just had our in-service last week, last Friday, and then also on Monday, and somebody brought up in our session, if you're going to use this CWLO checker to adjust your assignments, do you need to write something on your assignment that said that you used AI? And I said it's up to the instructor on how they want to proceed with that. And some people said that they're, will tell their students that they did it. And some people think of it like, oh, I used Photoshop to make this image. I don't need to disclose that I use Photoshop. So they're thinking about it like as a tool. Actually, this is a good chance here for a poll. See if I can do a quick poll here. Or actually, no, I was going to do a poll whether you would disclose or not. But maybe I can do in the chat, or if anybody wants to hop off and talk about how they disclose their AI use in their class if they're using AI. Jody says in the chat, some of this data was all being collected long before AI. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Okay, so if nobody wants to share, that's okay. We're kind of on time. So accountability, even if AI helped, you're still responsible for the final product. So if it's wrong or misleading, then it's on us. The onus is on us to take accountability for that. Fairness, ensuring AI doesn't disadvantage any student groups, making sure that the AI doesn't, making maybe a student doesn't have stable internet and maybe they're uncomfortable putting information into an AI tool. So just making sure that you're fair with use of it. And then the last one, of course, is human oversight. Trust in AI only grows when educators stay in the loop. And so always making sure that you're checking and double checking the output. Our key takeaways here for today in this section: all AI systems contain bias from their training data. Awareness and mitigation are essential. Student data protection must be considered before implementing AI tools. Students need to know when and how AI is being used in their education. I think that's kind of a modeling thing too, right? If you're going to model that you used AI, then maybe your students will be more comfortable or more likely to let you know if they used it. And then AI should augment, not replace, educator decision making and oversight. So that's the listen. Thank you all for listening and participating. I want to hop into our explore now, just so that we can get in the tools. This is applied AI, and so we want to try to use these tools based on what we were just talking about. In this, I'll just go ahead and read the overview here. We want to practice bias detection in AI outputs through structured testing with discipline-specific prompts and learn how to identify the problematic patterns. We're going to use the AI here You can use it for your discipline. I'm going to use it for just some example ones. And it's good to spot and address these outputs before using them with the students. So the tools here use a chat or Claude or Copilot or whatever you like to use. Maybe pick your discipline specific topic. So pick a subject area that you teach that could reveal bias. And then I'm gonna show you a quick framework here on questions that you can use to test it. So, okay. Some examples here, a topic where bias might appear. So we talked about history, so historical events, cultural practices, demographic representation, or controversial subjects in your field. And your scenario is you're testing AI for classroom content. All right, so I'm going to open up chat here. I'll go ahead and do a new private window. And I'm just going to choose one of these. So if you're teaching one of these, you can just pick it straight up. If you are teaching something else, maybe you can drop it in the chat. What your first prompt is. This is the first prompt to get some initial content. And so I am going to do kind of what Kelly was saying earlier. I want to know, give 5 examples of groundbreaking scientists in video game development. Describe their major discoveries or contributions. So feel free to watch as I go through this demo. We're going to be doing something very similar for the apply stage. So if you want to get a little extra practice in and you want to do this with me, feel free to open up your chat GPT or Claude and put this first prompt in here. Okay, who do we got? We've got John Carmack, computer graphics, real-time rendering, co-founder of id Software. Definitely heard of that. Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Quake, classics. We've got Ken Perlin. Don't know this name. Oh, Perlin noise, a gradient noise algorithm used to generate natural looking textures. Okay. The legend, Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Super Mario. Gotta have him on there. Raf Koster and Demis Hasidis. I don't know how to say this name. Let's see what's going on with Demis. British artificial intelligence researcher and entrepreneur. Oh, before founding DeepMind, he was the game designer on Theme Park and Black and White. Interesting. That's really a current person there. So, okay, I've got my initial. This is my initial volley with chat. It's come up with 5 groundbreaking sciences. Okay, and we're gonna look at this AI response. So I just kind of went over them quickly just to see if there's anybody that I know. And we want to look at these things here: gender distribution, male versus female versus non-binary examples, racial and ethnic diversity, geographic spread, and then time periods. So I don't know, I thought it was pretty good at time periods because it looked like there was, here says 90s, this would be like 80s, 2000s. This is like late 90s. They don't have anybody that's like at the beginning of as gaming, right? They don't have Jerry Lawson in there. Geographical spread, I'd have to look at each of them and see where they are. and also I'd have to like do some research on these ones. So this is a better example if you're using a field that you know. I'm not that steep in video game history, but you know, if you were to do it with a subject that you teach, then maybe you could clearly see, like, okay, I know this name, I know this name, I know this name. Oh, it's lacking this one. And so I can go through and I could do this by myself, or I can do something like this. Hold on. Could it be looking at numbers as groundbreaking? We have billions now instead of millions, so billions. Oh, interesting. It's an interesting point. David put it into the chat. I'm actually going to see here. I'm going to put this in and see. I'm going to check it with this one. So demographic representation check. It looks like we've got 5 males. This list is entirely male, reflecting both the historical gender imbalance in tech and visibility bias. So that's important to know too, right? You might say, oh, well, why is it all males? There's always, well, it says here, historical gender imbalance in tech, and the visibility bias that privileges male figures in discussions. Racial and ethnic diversity, we've got 3 white Western, 1 Japanese, and British of Greek Cypriot, Chinese heritage. That's some racial diversity. I like how it gives me a little observation here. Geographical spread, same kind of thing. And then time period, yeah, we've got 80s to 90s pioneers, and then here's the most recent one. Excluded viewpoints, diversity and inclusion efforts in gaming science, accessibility design, representation studies, feminist game theory, queer game studies. The examples prioritize technological and design innovation, not social or cultural innovation. Which, I don't know, I feel like we're talking about science. And so, you know, if we're looking at tech, this is video games is tech. Cultural assumptions embedded. Innovation is equated with programming and engineering mastery. The lone genius trope is reinforced. Yeah. Absent. Women, non-binary creators, indigenous technologists. I mean, it's looking for the top 5 based on its interpretations, and it didn't include any of those. So adjectives. All right, and then it's got a little summary of the findings down here in a table. Okay, so that's one. That's just to you know, try to identify these things. Here's another prompt that you can type in, saying your previous response lacked the diversity. And actually, since I put this last prompt in here, I kind of had it check itself. And so I can put here your previous response, or I'll say here your first response, lacked diversity in the specific area you identified. This would be chat identifying those areas, right? And so I can say, please provide 5 additional examples that specifically highlight contributions from the underrepresented groups in video game. What did I call it? Video game development.
I put in the chat, was it Jordan Mechner that was left off the list originally?
Jordan Mechner.
Was that the one that somebody mentioned earlier that they said they couldn't find?
Oh, earlier was Jerry
Okay.
Lawson.
Okay, thank you. Oh, so I did a search for give 5 groundbreaking pioneers in digital game development.
Nice.
And Jerry came up as number 4, but just rephrasing it.
Jerry Lawson?
Yeah.
Let's go. There it is. So this depends on the initial prompt, and that's actually kind of hits home.
We're all
with what they were
typing
trying to
Jerry
make.
Lawson into it. That's why.
Well, I think, because I think, when you're thinking the prompt was gaming, so it's like, you have some really huge games now. So I think, like I said before, it's looking at things where when I broke it down to pioneers in digital game development,
Yeah.
he came up. So just throwing it out there.
That's a really good point, right? The pioneers is, that's gonna take that and then focus on the people who, first started making video games a real thing. What's Jeff doing? Jeff, what are you putting in the chat right now? This all these photos. Did
I
you
don't
do
know.
all this?
No, that I accidentally that I was at Wikipedia looking up Donna Bailey,
Yeah.
and that got pulled in.
Okay. Oh, it got pulled in when you when you pasted it.
When I pasted in Donna Bailey invented Centipede, it included that. So my bad.
Hey, I did
I,
it.
I'm getting
Blame it on the AI.
I'm getting too old for this now.
Okay, cool. So just to show y'all what I was putting in here, that next prompt is the one that from this explore page. We track our way back here. I'm kind of calling it out. I'm calling out AI for not having these representations. And I don't know what to do with this. It's not, let me close out of this. It just wants me to log in. I can't. I don't want to ruin the name, and so I'm just going to say me too. Bangladeshi British woman, game design, AI ethics, human computer interaction, founder of the tiniest shark in glow up games. Okay. We've got Kishana Gray. This is the author of Race, Gender, and Deviance in Xbox Live. Okay. American. Irish American woman, Brenda Romero, industry veteran. Mary Flanagan, American woman, creator of the concept of critical play, where games are used to interrogate culture and systems of power. And we've got here Rian Abbas, Lebanese, founder of Spicatech. Okay, so here's a chance to learn about some of the multicultural contributions to video game development. And so how did the AI respond to direct bias feedback? It seemed like it was okay with just giving me another list. It was definitely a more diverse group. And I would say they were as detailed. It seemed like they were doing kind of a similar format. I can't speak to the credibility. I would have to do that on my own. But it does tell you that when you call it out, it can do here. Actually, let me see what it say here. Thank you for asking for more representative and inclusive follow-up. Here are 5 additional groundbreaking scientists and innovators from underrepresented groups. So that's cool. I mean, like if you're teaching a game design class and you've got kind of the legends, the pioneers, the people here that were originally right given, but then there's also some other contributions that are maybe not as common or not included in the conversation that I think should be. These people are making contributions, but maybe they're not getting the same kind of recognition for it. Some things that you want to watch out for, if all examples are from one demographic group. This is like if you're asking for something at the beginning and it's all white males. Stereotypical or limiting characterizations, Missing perspectives, we talked about that. Relevant to your student population, right? And to think about your students, what kind of students you have and where they come from. Outdated or harmful terminology. You know, that might come up if it's if you're looking at some stuff from a while ago. Some subtle issues you might see, different levels of detail for different groups. Passive versus active voice is used differently. Achievement framing that varies by demographics and cultural assumptions about values and practices. Our key insights that we want to capture here. Hopefully y'all can get this. Bias recognition, how to spot problematic patterns in AI outputs. Correction strategies, what can we do to mitigate that bias? And then quality assessment, whether the bias correction maintains the content quality. So once again, going through that list. And I said mitigating bias, it reminded me of a talk that we gave at NCORE this year. So let me see if I can find that in here. Oh, mitigate bias with AI. Here's our presentation from NCORE if you have an extra hour and a half to spare. But here's our slides if you want to look through that. But most importantly, down here are some prompts that you can use that Jeff Kane in the group created. That you can say, you can just pop this one in. And this is kind of similar to what we just did. You can type in the AI generated response might contain bias. What assumptions do you notice in the response? What perspectives might be missing? And so then it will give you some more considerations related to bias in the responses. And so this I think is a great practice for us as instructors to kind of help broaden our perspectives when it comes to you know, something like bias. You know, I'm looking at this stuff and I feel like I'm starting to, you know, learn more about it. There's a bunch of different prompts here that you can test. And these are all meant to just be copied and pasted after whatever the result is that comes with. Jeff Turner, I see you got a hand.
I noticed that as you're skimming through the response, the AI called out your bias for doing that second prompt, asking for bias.
Let's see what you're talking about over here. Where was that at? I mean, you're probably right. Like I have my own bias as well, and so you know, that kind of like I said, this kind of gets you to think more about that as you're putting together material for your courses. This is a good thing to think about. Just to make sure that you have, you know, diverse representation in your course, in an effort to make it a more welcoming place for your students. So
it's important to do this. And then at the same time, as I'm reading books or I'm reading articles, they're coming from authors that have a perspective, but I expect that when I'm reading, like I'm reading Henry Ford from 1930. You know, the bias is there, it smacks you in the head.
yeah,
But everybody's got a point of view, everybody's got a perspective, and a history, and it comes out in the writing. And it may just be that we assume that it isn't in the computer, but you know, it's the amalgamation of all these articles, all the text that's been written that has that bias. We're absolutely, I think, used to seeing that, whether whoever your favorite author is, you know, right or left in today's environment, or you know, if you're reading science, you know where they're coming from and you expect it.
yeah,
Just maybe not here.
yeah. And I think it's just the, you know, making sure that your students are aware, that you're aware of that, and that hopefully you can make your students aware of that as well, especially when working with AI. And so it's 4 p.m. now. We were able to do the listen and the explore today, which I'm happy about. I want to thank you all for sticking around and doing this with me and contributing to the conversation. Have a great Halloween if that's something you celebrate, and I'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, Ronald.
Thank you,
Good to see
Ronald.
everyone again.
Thanks, Ronald. See ya.
See
Good
ya.